Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and today I'm really excited to be here as a guest designer for My Favorite Things stamps. And I'm really excited because MFT is sponsoring a prize. All you have to do is subscribe to both YouTube channels, mine and MFT's, and leave a comment here on this video by 11:59 next Friday, September 14th, for a chance to win a $25 gift voucher to My Favorite Things. The winner will be announced on my blog on Saturday, September 15th. I'm working with some of the new products in the September release, including the new Free with 60 Hello Die, the Die-namics Happy Birthday script, and the Die-namics cross-stitch bookmark. I used black, white, and a mid-tone Copic rainbow for my cards, and I inlaid die cuts on both of these cards. I started with the simpler one and worked my way up. To begin, I cut the Hello die 3 times out of a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel of white cardstock. I used purple tape to hold the die in place each time because I wanted them lined up as perfectly as possible, leaving a little space at the bottom of the panel to stamp the rest of my sentiment. I grabbed all the L's and colored them with my Copic rainbow. I've sped up the coloring and put the caps down so that you can see my colors, but they'll all be listed in the supply list in the description below. I worked my way through the rainbow, making sure I had 3 or 4 colors on each set of L's, with some overlap to get additional shades. I wasn't really worried about making sure I got a smooth blend. On pieces this size, it's less important. I trimmed my panel by a 1/4 inch on the left side, and then I put my die cut panel into my mini MISTI, and I pulled out the amazing stamp set for my sentiment. I'm glad I found you. I lined it up, making sure it was straight and centered underneath the die cuts, and then I stamped it with some black ink. I backed the white panel onto a full-size black panel so that one side has a black strip. I love the graphic look that gives. Then I simply laid the sets of L's into the appropriate spot. This is a really easy example of inlaying die cuts because the font is very clean with lots of straight lines. The shapes are very simple, and I didn't inlay any of the letters or the letter centers. All of this leaves the card feeling very clean and modern. I started my second card by using the cross-stitch bookmark to create a horizontal scalloped sentiment strip. The bookmark is long enough that you could create a 5 1/2 inch strip, but my card is 4 1/4 inch square. Next, I grabbed the Happy Birthday script die and I cut it out of white cardstock so that I could color it. I used the same Copic markers that I used for my first card. Already you can see that this scripty font will add a bit of complexity to the inlaying process, but it's really just the same, with maybe a requirement for a little extra patience. The next step was to cut the Happy Birthday out of the sentiment panel. I could have saved some paper by coloring the die cut I created here, but I've saved it for a future project. I cut a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 panel from black cardstock and I put lots of glue down where the sentiment strip will be. When I laid down the strip, I didn't press down all the bits in the center. These bits can move around a bit, and so can the sentiment, so I find it works best for me to try and put the die cut I'm using in along with the center areas so that they all fit together perfectly. Once I got the colored words in place, I gathered up the letter centers in my jewel picker and I put each of them in place. I started with the more obvious ones so that when I got to the end, even if they kind of looked alike, there were only a couple I had to try in each hole. The tiny one in the loop of the R was still in the white die cut, so I placed it over top of the colorful one and I poked it through with my craft pick. I flipped the whole thing over and burnished it with my bone folder to make sure that each piece was really stuck in place, and then when I flipped it over, I realized I hadn't dotted my I. I was lucky. It was still on my cutting plate, and I simply colored it and put it in place. But if I had lost it, there are a couple of options. I could have recut just that area of the die, or I could have just glued a gem over top for some sparkle. Now, as it turns out, my sentiment strip was not completely straight on my black panel, so I ended up cutting down to 4 inches by 4 inches and gluing it to a white card base. I added a few sparkling clear confetti sequins for some sparkle, and my second card was finished. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I used similar colors, supplies, techniques, and tools, but I ended up with cards that still feel quite different from each other. All the supplies are listed below with shopping links. Don't forget to comment and then subscribe here and at MFT's channel for your chance to win a $25 gift voucher. The link is below. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a happy day.